Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. The Cabinet approves Central Sector Scheme for providing drones to women self-help groups. The Union Cabinet approves terms of references for the 16th Finance Commission. The Union Cabinet approves continuation of fast-track special court scheme until March 31, 2026. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization report warns of ethical risk of climate engineering. The Ministry of Mines launches the first ever trans auction of critical and strategic minerals. The Defence Minister calls for a culture of quality manufacturing to enhance India's defence exports. Starting with the first main news, the Cabinet has approved Central Sector Scheme for providing drones to women self-help groups. The scheme aims to provide drones to 15,000 selected women self-help groups during the period 2023-24 to 2025-26 for providing rental services to farmers for agriculture purposes. Before we look at the key highlights of the scheme, let's understand what self-help groups are. They are made up of 15 to 25 members of similar economic and social backgrounds who come together to improve their living conditions. Coming back to the key highlights of the scheme. It approves holistic interventions by converging resources and efforts of the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Department of Rural Development, Department of Fertilizers, women self-help groups and the lead fertilizer companies. Herein, one member of the self-help group who is well qualified and is or above 18 years will be elected by the State Rural Livelihood Mission and the lead fertilizer company for 15-day training. The lead fertilizer company will act as a bridge between drone supplier companies and these self-help groups. Also, it will promote the use of nano fertilizers such as nano urea and nano DAP by drones with self-help groups. Having said this, the significance of the scheme lies in the fact that it will be enabling women self-help groups to earn additional income of at least Rs 1 lakh per annum. It will also aid in infusing advanced technology in agriculture for improved efficiency, enhancing crop yield and reduced cost of operation for the benefit of farmers. Before we conclude this news, let's have a look at drones regulation in India. The Ministry of Civil Aviation published Drone Amendment Rules 2022, which amended the Drone Rules 2021 to regulate drone operations. Herein, all drones must be registered with the Directorate General of Civil Aviation and the operators must have a license to fly them. In another news, the Union Cabinet approves the terms of reference for the 16th Finance Commission. Before we look into the terms of reference, let's understand the basics about Finance Commission. It is a constitutional body which is to be set up every 5th year or earlier by the President under the Article 280 of the Constitution. The Commission's work involves redressing the vertical imbalances between the taxation powers and expenditure responsibilities of the centre and the states respectively, plus the equalization of all public services across all states. It suggests the distribution of taxes, grants and works based on the terms of reference set by the Finance Ministry after being approved by the centre. The 15th Finance Commission was set up in 2017, which was chaired by N.K. Singh and had made recommendations for the year 2020-21 and 2021-22 to 2025-26. For vertical devolution, it recommended the share of states in the central taxes to be 41%. Let's have a look at the terms of reference for 16th Finance Commission. They include the distribution between the Union and states of the net proceeds of taxes and allocation between the states of such proceeds. It also includes the principles for governing grants in aid and revenues of state under Article 275 of the Constitution. Additionally, they include measures needed to augment the consolidated fund of state to supplement the resources of panchayats and municipalities. Also, the Commission may review present arrangement on financing disaster management initiative. The 16th Finance Commission's recommendations, upon acceptance by the government, would cover the period of 5 years commencing April 1st, 2026. Moving on to the next news, the Union Cabinet has approved continuation of the fast-track special court scheme until March 31, 2026. Originally launched in 2019, the fast-track special court scheme is a centrally sponsored scheme and is being implemented by the Department of Justice under the Ministry of Law and Justice. Herein, the central share is to be funded from the Nirbhaya Fund which is aimed at enhancing the safety and security for women in the country. The fast-track special courts, designed as dedicated courts, were established for hearing, rape, and protection of children from sexual offences or the POCSO Act cases. Additionally, the enactment of Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2018, which included stringent punishment including death penalty for rape offenders, led to the creation of fast-track special courts. These courts are also linked to the National Judicial Data Grid. Currently, 761 such courts, including 414 exclusive POCSO courts, have been operationalized. These are operational in 30 states and union territories, which have resolved over 1.95 lakh cases. Having looked at the current status, let's explore some benefits of the fast-track special courts. They aim at ending sexual and gender-based violence along with reduction of pending cases of rape and the POCSO Act, relieving the burden on judicial system. They also provide swift access to justice for victims of sexual crimes through improved facilities and expedited trials. Having said this, there are certain concerns associated with fast-track special courts. These include the lack of IT infrastructure and special training provided to the judges and the inadequate number of judges.
Recently, a report by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or famously called the UNESCO, has warned of the ethical risks of climate engineering. The UNESCO's World Commission on the Ethics of Scientific Knowledge and Technology, or COMEST, published its first ever report on the ethics of climate engineering. COMEST is an advisory body and forum of reflection set up by the UNESCO in 1998. Climate engineering, also known as geoengineering, is the intentional large-scale intervention in the Earth's climate system to counter climate change. It is classified into two groups. Number one, carbon dioxide removal, or the CDR group, which draws emitted carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And number two, the solar radiation modification, or the SRM group, which reflects sunlight back to space. Let's briefly discuss the key ethical concerns with climate engineering. Well, climate engineering could create a slippery slope that facilitates the acceleration toward deployment without any ethical framework. Its techniques can create a moral hazard, providing stakeholders with an excuse to not reduce the use of fossil fuels. It could be pushed by corporations for economic gains. Geoengineering tools have the potential for military or geopolitical use. Now let's go through a few recommendations in that regard. States must introduce legislations that regulate new forms of climate action. Scientific research on climate engineering must be based on ethical standards consistent with international law. Lastly, marginalized communities must be considered and involved in climate engineering policies. Coming to the UNESCO, or the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. It was established in the year 1945 and is headquartered in Paris, France. Its objective is to contribute to the building of a culture of peace, the eradication of poverty, and intercultural dialogue through education, the sciences, culture, communication, and information. It has 194 members, including India, and 12 associate members. The various initiatives of the UNESCO include the Universal Copyright Convention of 1952, Man and the Biosphere Program 1971, World Heritage Convention 1972, Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage 2003. Recently, the Ministry of Mines has launched the first ever tranche auction of critical and strategic minerals. The first tranche auction includes 20 blocks covering lithium and rare earth elements. Of the 20 blocks, 16 are composite licenses encompassing exploration, discovery, and processing, while 4 are mining leases for areas with proven reserve of minerals. A common question is, what are critical minerals? Well, these are elements that are building blocks of essential modern-day technologies and are at risk of supply chain disruptions. In June 2023, the Ministry of Mines identified 30 critical minerals, including lithium, cobalt, nickel, and vanadium. The various concerns associated with critical minerals are the lack of widespread availability of these minerals and concentration of the extraction and processing in a few countries, which could lead to supply chain vulnerabilities. These minerals lack substitutes and have low end-of-life recycling rates, which increases the supply risks. The 2023 amendment to the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957 notified 24 minerals as critical and strategic minerals. Amendment confers power to grant mineral concessions of these minerals to central government. The revenue generated from auctions will accrue to the state government. Critical minerals are of high significance. They're essential for countries' economic development and national security. Lithium, silicon, etc. are vital to manufacture technologies and materials used in aerospace and defense sectors. Rare earth elements, cobalt, etc. are important for climate-friendly technologies like electric vehicles, solar panels, and wind turbines. Recently, the Defense Minister of India called for a culture of quality manufacturing to enhance India's defense exports. The Defense Minister also presented the System for Advanced Manufacturing Assessment and Ranking or SUMMER certificates to the representatives of qualified industries. SUMMER certificate is a benchmark to measure the maturity of defense manufacturing enterprises. Currently, the defense exports showed a 23-fold increase in exports between 2013-14 to 2022-23 and covering more than 85 countries. Despite that, India still accounts for less than 0.2% of global arms exports. India aims to achieve $5 billion in defense exports by 2025. Let's go through the challenges associated with the defense sector. The defense market is a monopsony as the Indian armed forces are the only buyers, which creates market distortions. Secondly, there is a lack of cohesion between stakeholders such as the Indian Armed Forces, the defense PSUs or DPSUs, and private manufacturers. The existence of DPSUs and private manufacturer asymmetry as the contribution of defense private companies to the total defense production is around 19% in the financial year 2022-23. Now let's go through the various government initiatives for the promotion of defense exports. Number 1, the Scheme for the Promotion of Defense Exports. Number 2, the Defense Production and Export Promotion Policy 2020. Number 3, the Defense Acquisition Procedures 2020. And lastly, the Innovations for Defense Excellence. Apart from the above measures, a few more steps could be the need to export high-value weapon systems like aircraft carrier, LCA Tejas, etc., extension of the defense line of credit to friendly foreign countries, increase the contribution of defense private companies, and finally, the need to become a part of the global value chains. The place in the news for today is Lithuania, the capital of which is Vilnius. Recently, India and Lithuania held a meeting to strengthen maritime bilateral relations. Let's briefly go through the political features of Lithuania. It is located in the northeastern Europe and is the southernmost and largest of the 3 Baltic states, the other 2 being Estonia and Latvia. Coming to its political boundaries, it has Latvia to the north, Belarus to the east and south, Poland and the detached Russian Kaliningrad Oblast to the southwest, and the Baltic Sea to the west. Coming to its geographical features, River Nemunas is its most important river, and Lake Druksai is its largest lake. Ostoyas Hill is its highest point. Lithuanian is considered to be the oldest surviving Indo-European language in the world.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. The Union Cabinet has approved Pradhan Mantri Janjati Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan or PM Janman with a total outlay of Rs 24,104 crore. The funds will be made available to implement the mission in the next 3 years under Development Action Plan for Scheduled Tribes. The sugarcane byproduct, press mud, can help generate 4,60,000 tons of compressed biogas, valued at Rs 2,484 crores. Press mud is the residual solid product obtained from sugarcane juice before crystallization of sugar. Manipur's armed group, United National Liberation Front, has signed a peace deal ending 6-decade-long armed movement. Founded in 1964, the United National Liberation Front is the oldest Meitei insurgent group in the northeastern state of Manipur. A barren patch on the fringes of Bandipur Tiger Reserve has been transformed into an orchard. The Bandipur Tiger Reserve forms part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve and is surrounded by Mudumalai Tiger Reserve in the south and the Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary in the southwest. An artificial intelligence-based sensor system, Gajraj, will be deployed to prevent elephant deaths in rail accidents. It will cover 700 kilometers railway tracks across West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, Assam, Kerala, Chhattisgarh and Tamil Nadu. A study indicates that rising sea temperatures due to climate change are causing tropical marine species to move from equator towards poles and retraction of temperate species. This mass movement of marine life has been termed tropicalization. Astronomers have photographed the enigmatic comet P12 or the Pons Brooks from the Indian Astronomical Observatory in Hanle, Ladakh using the Himalayan Chandra telescope. It is a celestial object that has been playfully nicknamed the Devil Comet or likened to the Millennium Falcon for its distinctive appearance. The British Prime Minister has cancelled a meeting with his Greek counterpart over the status of the Parthenon sculptures housed at the British Museum. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answer to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.